Hey folks, Papa Boris here playing some leaders. We're up against Sire Flow, and it looks like I am the second character to play. One curious thing about this game is the way it's implemented in BGA, you're always on the bottom. So if you wondered about that, it was a little tricky when I made my rules video because I had to like invert what I was doing with my other monitor for Jack and Dack. So we got Sire Flow moving up. And there's the Bruiser, which is the character that can push an enemy out of their space and move it. The Illusionist, which can swap spaces with a non-adjacent visible character. And the Jailer. This is a very strong defensive character. If it's next to an enemy, then the enemy cannot use any active abilities. Alright, so there's the Bruiser. The Bruiser's a very strong character because the Bruiser can just like push up to your leader, and there's really nothing you can do about it. So it's a pretty scary character to face. What I'm going to do is move my leader away from the Bruiser, and we'll grab the Illusionist, which is a very strong character as well. Swapping places with a character in a visible line is a pretty strong effect, and I'll just be annoying. I'm going to put it in front, like in a line with the enemy leader. So this way, my opponent has to constantly worry about being swapped places with. In fact, I'm also going to go ahead and grab the Manipulator. And now we have two characters that, at long range, can cause an enemy to move, which will make it annoying for my opponent's leader to avoid being manipulated with. Alright, so my opponent moves out of the way of the Illusionist, although interestingly, he moves into the way of the Manipulator, which is a curious choice. And he grabs the Assassin, so the Assassin's shtick is that the Assassin can capture the opponent's leader all by himself. So what I'm going to do here is I'll be a little frisky. We're going to use the active ability of the Illusionist and pull the enemy leader a step closer. I'll also bring... Sorry, this is not my Illusionist. This is the Manipulator. I'll also use the Illusionist to take a step forward. I am going to tuck my... Well, am I? I'm going to step my leader forward. We're going to be a little bit frisky, actually. And I'm going to end my action phase here. And we're going to grab the Vizier. So the Vizier's special ability is that he lets your leader move twice. So this has a couple of purposes. One is it's going to make it harder for my opponent's leader to walk out of the line of sight from the Illusionist and the Manipulator that I have. And two, I can use my leader as an offensive piece. So the interesting... Oh, that's a bold choice, my friend. Oh, boy. Okay. You can definitely do that. Sorry. This ends up being... You know what? This ends up being a pretty instructive game. This is a very, very... instructive game. The opponent could have where was their leader? The leader was here, right? They could have moved the leader there, hired the protector in one of these two recruitment slots. That would have prevented me from moving the leader because the protector makes it so adjacent allies cannot be moved by enemy abilities. So even though the character would have just been recruited, my opponent would have still made use of him immediately. So a character can sometimes be just recruited at the end of your turn and still have an impact on the game. As it is, my opponent forgot about a couple of things. One is my Illusionist swapping places, and two is that your leader can be used to help capture the enemy leader. It's a little bit tricky because a lot of times, you know, you can't move your leader in here or in here because then your leader himself would get captured. But if my leader is just here and is only adjacent to the enemy leader, then voila, my opponent's leader is next to two of my characters. And that's the game. All right, so a very instructive game. Your leader can be used to help you capture your opponent's leader. All right, we'll see what other instructive things we discover in the next game. Hey folks, Papa Boris here playing some more leaders. We're up against Lumu. And let's see if I'm first or second. Today I am the first player. All right, so we're going to take a step forward. And I'm going to grab the Illusionist. I really like the Illusionist. What can I say? I'm going to stick the Illusionist behind my leader just to be a little bit, not that tricky, but a little tricky. So now if my opponent doesn't move the leader out of the way, I can move my leader to the side and swap places. And in fact, I won't instantly win the game because my Illusionist will be here and my opponent's leader will be here. But it'll be very easy for me to win the game because then, of course, my opponent's leader is on my side of the board and I'm recruiting over here and my opponent's recruiting over there, and that'll be that. Now, of course, Lumu is not going to be foiled by such juvenile tactics. He now gets to recruit two characters. I'm very curious what he takes. If it were me, I'd take the Claw Launcher. This is a really strong character. So it's also one of those visible character things in a straight line to a visible character. The Claw Launcher can either make them Scorpion-esque, get over here, or pull himself up to that character. So it's really, really versatile. All right, now this is good because we have the manipulator and the claw launcher, so I can do what I did last game and have 2 of these manipulation characters with either one of them, making it hard for my opponent to get out of the line of fire. But on the other hand, there's also the counterplay. There's the Vizier, which can let your leader move in additional space, and that can make it possible for the leader to get out of the way of these characters. Now, I don't want to swap places with my opponent's assassin, because then my leader will pretty much die next turn. But what I am going to do is maybe move my leader over here. Bring my illusionist up to here. And then I'm going to play my claw launcher. Oh, I got to stop this. And then I'm going to put the claw launcher here. So my thinking is that I can try to discourage my opponent from moving his leader into this column or this column. So he'll be forced to move his leader over into the middle. And then I can try to keep my opponent squeezed and kind of shepherd him over to the left side of the board. Now we have a character out here who's very strong, the Hermit and Cub. This character has no special abilities, but you get 2 characters for 1. The trick is that the Cub character cannot be used to help capture the leader. Although, he still can. The Cub can still fulfill the suffocation requirement, where the leader has no adjacent empty hexes, but the Cub cannot, with just one other of your characters, help capture the leader. But still, it's a really strong character because having just an extra thing on the board that belongs to you is a pretty big deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lumu chose to get that character. Indeed, Lumu chooses the Hermit, although this is a pretty... Oh, boy. You know what we're learning is people really forget about this illusionist. I tell ya. Yeah, so my opponent could, of course, have just moved the leader behind the assassin. That would have been pretty strong, because I don't want to switch places with the assassin, since the assassin can single-handedly kill my leader. That would really trip me up. And that would have been a pretty great way to counter the illusionist's ability, honestly. However, my opponent put the Hermit there, which they didn't have to do. You can recruit characters in any one of these yellow spaces on your side of the board, so there was no reason to block the leader from moving. In fact, the recruitment phase happens after the movement phase, so my opponent could have moved first, then recruited the Hermit. Instead, my opponent forgot that I can use my illusionist to swap places with his leader, whoops, and then my own leader can be used to capture the enemy leader. So once again, we are educated on some very important mechanics of this game, which is that your leader can be used to capture the enemy leader, and you do not want to leave your leader opposite your opponent's illusionist early in the game. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.